I genuinely believe Java moss is one of the best plants we can grow in our aquariums. Whether we're keeping fish or shrimp or we've got a breeding tank, there is a situation where Java moss will work well, and in this video I'm going to share with you my guide to successfully growing Java moss. Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Richard and I'm a fish and shrimp breeder based in the UK. So why do I love Java moss so much? Well, first off, Java moss is almost certainly the easiest aquarium plant to grow. Providing you place it in water and give it at least some light, you almost can't fail to succeed with Java moss. Even if you're one of these people that doesn't have much luck when it comes to growing live aquatic plants, Java moss won't be able to help but grow for you. Java moss doesn't need any special lighting whatsoever. It doesn't even really need fertilizer. I grow it in tanks that have high-end LED lights. I also grow it perfectly well in these shrimp breeding tanks. These shrimp breeding tanks just run off regular LED bulbs that you might pick up from a hardware store. There is no special lighting in any of these tanks at all. Java moss is loved by fish and shrimp breeders, and that's because having Java moss in an aquarium when you're breeding simply increases the chances of the baby fish or shrimp surviving. If you're breeding live bearers, guppies, mollies, platies, whatever it might be, when the babies are released by the female, they will shoot into the clump of Java moss. When it comes to baby survival, out of sight is out of mind. If they're in the clump of moss, the adults aren't eating them. You will have more babies survive. When you're breeding red cherry shrimp, the same is true. The females, once the eggs are ready, they release the babies. The babies will shoot into the Java moss. And when it comes to shrimp breeding, the babies will stay, they will eat in the moss, they'll molt in the moss, and weeks or months later they'll come out and they'll be big enough to survive in the aquarium. There is no doubt I breed more shrimp in aquariums where I have Java moss than ones where I don't. And when it comes to shrimp, the Java moss is also a fabulous place for biofilm to form. Red cherry shrimp will spend hours each day just combing the moss, eating the biofilm, eating bacteria that's on the moss, and eating any starts of algae that are forming. They literally spend their entire day combing the moss, eating anything they can find. Now, Java moss is also loved by aquascapers. You must at some point have seen a fantastic aquascape by George Farmer or by Takeshi Amano. These guys take a piece of wood and a clump of Java moss and they change the tank to look like a woodland scene or to look like trees growing on a hill. What you can do with Java moss is truly phenomenal because you can attach it to the wood, it looks like a tree, and all you do is keep it trimmed. I mean, it's way beyond my skill set, but if you want to try high-end aquascaping, make Java moss your friend. And as I say, to grow Java moss successfully, you don't need to worry about fertilizer. You don't need to worry about special lighting. I have seen videos on YouTube where they will tell you have to fertilize to grow your Java moss. I'll cut to footage of these breeding tanks here. Let me assure you, I never fertilize my shrimp breeding tanks, but they're almost full of Java moss. And we pull masses out here because we sell it on eBay in small portions, and when we've got far too much, we take buckets of it into our local store where we trade it for store credit. The other great advantage of keeping Java moss in your aquariums is the Java moss sucks nitrates out of the water. When our fish go to the bathroom, their waste is high in ammonia, and our filters convert that ammonia through nitrite all the way to nitrates. Typically, the only way to remove the nitrates is through water changes. But having live plants, including Java moss, in the aquarium, those plants suck nitrates out of the water. The nitrate levels will be lower in aquariums where you keep Java moss compared to ones where you don't. It's why I love to keep live aquatic plants in pretty much every single aquarium I have. So how do you grow Java moss? Essentially, Java moss only needs two ingredients. It needs water and it needs light. It doesn't need special light. It doesn't need extra fertilizer. It loves fish poop. If you keep Java moss in with your goldfish poop a lot, the Java moss will just expand. It will just grow at a phenomenal rate. Let me assure you, if you're one of these people who doesn't have much luck growing live aquatic plants, get yourself a clump of Java moss. I will be astonished if you don't find that it grows for you. I keep it in shrimp only tanks, I keep it in community tanks, I have it with my goldfish, I've kept it in tanks with Oscars before, because no matter how much the Oscars push the moss around and batter it, it just grows, it doesn't care. They can't tear it up like they would with regular aquatic plants. I would say there are very few aquariums where Java moss won't work. Now, Java moss doesn't root like traditional plants. You don't root it in the gravel. You can either grow it freeform, which is typically what I do. I just drop a clump in and let it grow. But you can also attach it to wood or to rocks or to any decoration in the aquarium really. You can use thread or fishing line to tie the Java moss on, or you can use cyanoacrylate superglued gel, which essentially a blob on the rock, you push the moss on, you give it 3 or 4 minutes, put it in the tank, the moss will grow away beautifully and it will be anchored in just the one place. Now before I move on to the downsides of growing Java moss, I wonder if you would be kind enough to take a moment to consider subscribing to the channel. The larger I can build this channel, the more interesting, informative and entertaining videos I can make for you to enjoy. So what are the downsides of growing Java moss? Well, there are very few to be fair, and unless you consider the fact that it would eventually expand to fill your entire tank if you left it. The main downside I've come across is if you're unfortunate enough for your Java moss to get caught up with algae or with a pest plant like bladderwort or something, it can be very tricky to get it out. If you end up with hair algae inside your Java moss, there's no real way to get that out unless you have fish that will eat it. In the past I have found I've had a decent sized clump and then hair algae has formed on it, and to be honest with you, I simply remove any Java moss that has hair algae on it. You end up with a much smaller clump, chuck it back in your tank, within 3 or 4 months it's back to the original size. Other than that, there are very few downsides. I would genuinely say one of the secrets to my success in shrimp breeding is Java moss. It's helped me grow some truly huge colonies even in aquariums where I keep fish. And if you want to know some other secrets to growing a huge shrimp colony, why not check out the video I've linked on screen. Thanks for watching.